Hi everyone, thank you so much for the people who've sent in questions on Instagram. I'm here today to answer those questions. So thank you all so much. We've had loads of questions, but of course we want to keep them coming because every time I answer a question, hopefully people are learning something more about the property industry and what I do. So please keep them coming. Well, when you're talking about commercial, it's very different to residential. So residential is much easier to get mortgages on. Funding is much easier. When you go into commercial, you go into a much more difficult sector in terms of funding. And also you've got ongoing costs. So if, for instance, the commercial warehouse you're thinking of purchasing is vacant, then you're going to have empty rates. That's unless it's listed, which is unlikely in a warehouse. So you're going to have empty rates. So it's a very difficult proposition compared to residential. That's not saying you shouldn't do it, because if that's what you want to do, then crack on. There's lots and lots of different ways of making money out of property, and it's whatever suits you best. If it's commercial that you want to do, you go for it. I look for a return of 30% net of all costs. And when I say net of all costs, I mean net of interest payments and everything else. Empty rates you might have to pay, electricity bill, the whole damn lot, including, of course, any ongoing costs to sell the properties as well. So 30% as a minimum. We hope to do better than that. But of course, at least if you start off at 30% and it doesn't go as well as you hope, then you might still make 10, 15, 20%. Whereas if you start at 20% or 15%, like some people will do, then obviously if it goes wrong, you're probably losing money. So have high standards, and I would always say, if I'm not keen to do it, because there's not enough profit in it, then you should think about whether you should be doing it also. I think when you've got a limited company, it's really important to shop around like it is if you were purchasing a buy-to-let property looking for a mortgage for that. You're always going to pay, probably I would say, depending on how much money you are investing yourself into the deal. So if you're putting 50% in, then you'll get a much lower rate, and I do that sometimes, and I'm getting a rate of around 3% on investment property. If you're putting in less than that, say you're only putting in 20 or 25, 30%, then you'll pay more interest. And that may be as much as 6, 7%, even on in just a normal investment. If you're going to develop property, then that can easily be up to 10% a year interest. So shop around and be careful. Of course, now things are hopefully getting back to normal with the COVID. It's a very interesting market. Everyone was surprised during COVID how strong the property market was. Prices in some areas went up as much as 20%. This year, I think what's going to happen is that the market's going to settle down more. Over 400,000 first-time buyers joined the market last year. I don't think we're going to have that many this year at all. And I think what's happening in Ukraine and so on will have a negative effect on the market. Interest rates, I think we're going to go up to 2% this year, in my view. They may not now go up so much because of what's happening in Ukraine. But I think if you look at the property shares, the house builder shares, they've all gone down because they realise that the higher the interest, the less people can afford to buy a new property, and that has a knock-on effect. So first-time buyers don't buy, so the whole thing, there's a knock-on effect throughout the whole marketplace. And I think by the third or fourth quarter of this year, there'll be many more deals about for people to invest into. It's very hard to mitigate against the costs of building materials going up. What we've done in Birmingham on a part finish scheme we've purchased after the auction recently was we purchased the build materials up front for the site, so we could get on with it and not have any time lapses in terms of not having the materials to carry on. Now, not everyone can do that, I do appreciate that, and some materials have gone up 30%. Timber, raw timber that is, uncut timber, has gone up 100% in the last 18 months. Now, people are saying, well, you know, it will start coming down again. In my experience, once it's gone up, it's very hard for anything to come down. You know, people get used to accepting those costs as well. So you have got to be careful. And you know, I would look to put 15 to 20% on any job now rather than 2 years ago because of that cost, because of the cost of materials. So please be careful. I think with permitted development, I mean, most of it, as you know, has been around since 2013, offices to residential. That was a very simple way of developing flats. The new rules that came out in August last year, things have changed. The local authorities are much more switched on to it, and the government have given them more reasons to be able to not allow certain PD, permissive development. So I think you need to be careful with it, and I personally don't buy any property that I think I can get PD on. I never buy it unless it's already got it. So that might tell you something about how cautious we are, and so don't just assume because everyone's told you can get PD on a certain development that you can. You've got 56 days to get it. I would get it before you exchange contracts to be on the safe side. I think what makes a property educator credible really is their experience. And I think you only need to press a few buttons on a computer these days to find out whether the person who is training you has got the relevant experience or not. And I don't think you need to spend thousands and thousands of pounds on that education. I think you need to be smart with it. And of course you learn far more by actually getting on with it. It's a bit like when you first learn to drive. You can have someone sat there for 6 months teaching you how to drive, but you learn more the first day that you pass your test and you actually drive on your own. So there's lots of support available to you once you start looking at deals and looking to do deals. And of course, every deal you analyse, you're learning from that experience. So spend a bit of money. I mean, I do obviously day seminars, which are quite popular and are readily available on my website. But what I would say is just be careful, just check the person you're looking to invest money into has got the relevant experience to what you want to do.